Now the equation. So our main point is this one right here. I've gone to the left 3, or sorry, to the right 3, and up 3. So to the right 3 would be minus 3, because it's the opposite when it's inside the absolute value, and then up 3. And there's one more thing I need to do. Absolute value usually points which way? The V, what does it usually do? Points up. This one's pointing down. So how do I show that? What? Yeah, I just put a negative out in front. Questions? All right, good. So on B, if f of x equals, let me give you some expression. It wants to know for what values of a does f of 3 equal, and it gives you another expression. Show your work. So we're going to start with this, because this I can figure out exactly what number that is. It's negative 2 times g of negative 4. So I look at my graph. G of x is just this picture. G of negative 4 corresponds to that point right there. So that's negative 2. Then minus 3 times g of 3. So g of positive 3 is right here, which is also at 3. Are we okay? Okay. Then we have to follow PEMDAS. Please excuse my ignorance. I got to multiply before we can add and subtract. So we have 4, negative 2 times negative 2, and then 3 times 3 is 9, so 4 minus 9, which is negative 5. So we need to find the values of a, or when I do f of 3, I get negative 5. When I do f of 3, I'm going to plug it into this equation. That would be 3 times 3 minus 2 plus 2 times a times 3. It's going to have an a in it, and that's okay. That's what we're solving for. 3 minus 2 is 1 times 3 is 3. 2 times 3 is 6, so it's 6a. And now it says, what's the value of a when f of 3 equals this negative 5? So I take 3 plus 6a, and I set it equal to negative 5. So this is a several-step problem, but it's a free response question, so it makes sense that it should be several steps. Subtract 3 on both sides. I get 6a equals negative 8. Divide by 6. I get a equals negative 8 over 6, which I can reduce by dividing by 2. You get negative 4/3. Okay, C. If g of x is less than 0, then explain graphically what that means about the graph of g of x. Then state the intervals of values along the x-axis for which g of x is less than 0. Okay, so g of x is less than 0. So that means if you're looking up here at this picture, this is g of x. Less than 0 means where is it on the graph? Left, yes, if it was less than, if x was less than 0. But g of x, remember, is y, down. So it's everywhere below the x-axis. So I highlighted it for us. This was the very end of what we did yesterday. Okay, and I explain graphically what that means about the graph of g of x. Explain graphically, so that means everywhere g of x is below the x-axis. Then we state the intervals for which it is less than 0. It's less than 0 everywhere it's pink. So from -5 to -1. Remember, we didn't include the endpoints here because at the endpoints it's not actually, well, I would include the endpoint. I wouldn't include -1 though. -5 is indeed below it, but -1 is at 0. And then it looks like it's from 6, to infinity. It doesn't include 6 because 6 is on 0. No, because we're talking about the x. So x is going to the right, so it's positive. Good question. Intervals, anytime you're asked to give the intervals, is always with x values. Okay, I think this is the last one. Yep. So D. If g of x is greater than or equal to 0, then explain graphically what that means about the graph. So where on the graph is it greater than or equal to 0? Everywhere that's what? Above or on, because if it's or equal to, so it would include all of those. That's greater than or equal to 0. So everywhere on g of x on or above the x-axis. That's explaining it by using the graph. And then state the intervals. So it would go from -1 to 6, and it would include those endpoints because it's also where it equals 0. I didn't see that in my notes, so I'm glad it was in yours. Okay, because that's a good example, because when it comes to your quiz, which of course you get to use your notes and your homework on, but on your quiz you'll have multiple choice, which multiple choice you'll get to use. I actually give some partial credit on multiple choice, which is weird, but as long as you show your work. And then there are also free response questions, kind of like this. So that's good that we're practicing these. Okay, that was the homework. And here we go. On to new stuff. Okay, so now we're going to be not just comparing the function to whether it's bigger than 0 or less than 0 or whatever. Oh, you need that sheet, don't you? Oh, yeah. We're going to be comparing equations or graphs to each other. Okay, so which variable x or y do the notations f of x and g of x represent? So f of x and g of x are both what? Y's. Very good. If f of x equals g of x, what has to happen on the graphs? So if I told you this graph equals another graph, say that again. It's a line. Well, it could be. F of x could be a line. G of x could be a line. How would I make them equal to each other? The slopes are the same, parallel, but I need their values, their y's, to be equal to each other.